So this question is about how to deal with stress from work. So perhaps put upon you by a work colleague or by a boss, which is really difficult for you to deal with. So the anxiety around that kind of work management piece.
So I would say definitely to go to your management. So go to your manager who's responsible for looking after you, and be open and honest about what's going on. Like, mental health isn't stigmatized the way it used to. If you're going to tell them you have epilepsy or you have depression, it shouldn't be viewed in a different way. So if you're saying, in my day-to-day work, I'm finding that I'm unable to work to my best performance because of what's happening here, and let the work deal with it. Because all employment have to offer reasonable accommodations for people who are struggling or need help to manage the day-to-day work.
Thank you. The next question is, how do you recognise normal day-to-day anxiety becoming a disorder that needs serious treatment?
So I think this goes back to the slide I had. I suppose when anxiety becomes a constant in your life, when you're worrying about worrying, when you're finding that it's actually affecting your performance, if you're not able to do things because of the level of anxiety, if your the social connections are deteriorating, maybe you're not able to go to work. But really, you can be your own judge of when the anxiety becomes unmanageable, because you're the one who's going to say, I'm at a stage when I'm struggling. And I suppose, like we've said throughout the lecture, if you do feel like you need a bit of help or a bit of support with anxiety, please, please, please go and seek support, because sometimes there can be really easy tools that you can use in the anxiety to navigate it and to make it more manageable for yourself.
So the next person, I think, Carol, your message about sleep got through. So they said, what time should one go to sleep, or what is a healthy sleep pattern?
Good to hear that someone took the sleep very seriously. So we all know that it's 7 to 8 hours of sleep is what we're looking for. And again, one size doesn't fit all. We have to remember as well, when we go through our life, at different ages, we're going to have different levels of sleep or quality of sleep. So really, between 10, 11, 12 at night time, again, depending on your structure, depending on your routine, what you have the next day. But what I would say about sleep is melatonin is obviously our natural hormone that comes out to tell us it's time to go to bed. So if you can get into a good structure routine that you're going to bed at the same time every night, whether it's 10, whether it's 11, but if you have a nice nighttime routine and you have your up to 7-8 hours, then you're doing all right.
Thanks, Carol. How do you best manage supporting someone with anxiety? So, for example, if you're a partner of someone who's experiencing anxiety.
So I would say, if you haven't approached your partner yet, or it isn't something that you've spoken about before, very compassionately, I would approach your partner and list the reasons why I'm worried about you. Again, out of loving and out of kindness. And I suppose if you're both aware of the anxiety and you've spoken about it before, sit down, talk to your partner, ask, what is it that makes you anxious? What can I do in those times that's going to help manage your anxiety? And just have an open, honest conversation. And obviously to instill hope that there's loads of ways to manage anxiety, and together you both can work through it.
So the next person asks about when does, I suppose, relaxation or time to yourself become too much? So when you might be using it potentially as cocooning or avoiding the anxiety itself.
So again, I think this is when it starts interfering with your life. If it's interfering with work, if it's interfering with your social connections, sometimes it can go from kind of being a crutch into being avoidance. So just to be really mindful. Again, it's each person to their own, but once you're engaging in those kind of calming techniques while not neglecting all the other aspects of your life, I would say you're fine. And when you start seeing someone maybe not engaging in other aspects and solely engaging in these calming routines, then maybe you could see that it's being used a little bit as avoidance.
How can a person get access or referred for things like CBT or treatment or therapy?
So definitely your GP can be a great first port of call, because your GP will be aware of all CBT therapists or psychological therapists within your area. If that's not an option for you, there's also your mentalhealth.ie, and it's a drop down menu of all the services and supports that are within your area. So it may not be a one-to-one professional therapy that you're going to, but maybe while you're waiting to sign up with a therapist for one-on-one, there's actually loads of really helpful support groups or CBT groups that you can go to that can be really, really helpful.
The last one we're going to take, Carol, asks about triggers. So can your triggers ever be stopped as such, or is it a case where they can only be managed?
So definitely, I would bring this back to the slide on the behavioural response, you know, the driving and the first time we drive and the second, third, fourth. So triggers absolutely can be managed, and I suppose it's in engaging and facing the triggers and working through them. Again, teaching your body, I can do this. I'm not comfortable, I don't enjoy it, but I am able to cope. So again, I would say facing into the fear, the more you experience, the more you sit through it, the more you teach the body that this is okay, the less that the triggers will be as effective.
Thank you very much, and thanks for your time, Carol, and for the preparedness, and thanks for everyone for coming. If there's a question that's really burning that we didn't answer and somebody wants to approach us, you absolutely have the opportunity to do that before we leave as well. So thanks again.
Yay, I'm done.